YouTube channel, or One Spot Media. We also are live on Music 99 and gojamaica.com. If you have questions on today's subject, you can send them in to Television Jamaica's Facebook page or Instagram at television_Jamaica. Today's lesson is on communication studies, where we'll be focusing on language and community. I am Colleen Ayton. So, we'll be looking at Module 2, Language and Community. The objectives for CAPE Communication Studies syllabus include that students should be able to discuss the concept of language, describe their territory or any other territory along the lines of attitudes to language used, assess the registers, dialects, ranges of formality, and other aspects of language in various types of interactive settings. So what are our specific objectives for today? At the end of the lesson, students should be able to distinguish between language and a language, identify and discuss the features of a language, identify and discuss the purposes or functions of a language, identify the different language registers, and discuss the varying attitudes to a language. Let's begin. So, food for thought. As we're about to begin this lesson, ask yourselves these questions and see if you can answer them. Our first question: do animals have language, or do they simply communicate? The second question is there a difference between language and a language? Okay, start your thinking. So, let us begin by looking at the differences between language and a language. When we speak of language, we are talking about the ability which every normal human being has that allows him not only to communicate with other human beings, but also with himself. And this is from Robert, cited in Fisher. So we are realizing that language allows us to communicate not only with others, but with ourselves. So we are not mad. Then we have a language. What is the difference? A language is defined as one recognizable, identifiable, or accepted language used by one or more communities of speakers. This means that we are referring to the variety of language that exist in the world. So I'm talking about Spanish, I'm talking about French, I'm talking about Dutch. That is what we mean by a language. So let us look at features of a language. So what makes a language considered a language? What characteristics should a language have? Now there are 7 key features of a language. It should be it's non-instinctive, it's dynamic, it's symbolic, it is human verbal activity, it is arbitrary, it is maturational, and it is systematic. So, let us look at each of these. When we talk about language being human verbal activity, what are we talking about? This means, students, that only humans can have that range of utterances. So, unlike animals, so we are able to ask questions, we are able to command, etc. Right? So only humans have this ability to create these complex utterances. So you cannot say, for instance, if your dog goes over to the neighbor's house and gets bitten, the dog comes back over moaning and with its tail between its legs. Yes, it is saying, I'm hurt. It is saying, I didn't win this battle. But can the dog say to the neighbor's dog, wait until tomorrow? No, it can't. But humans have that ability to say to that person, I am going to get back at you. This is not the end of it. So language is human verbal activity. It's unique to humans. Language is also considered to be symbolic. So the word that should readily come to mind is symbol. What is a symbol? Symbol is something that represents something. So when you think of a table, for argument's sake, what comes to your mind? You're thinking of something with legs, possibly 4 legs. You're thinking of a flat surface. You're thinking of something that you may use to eat. So we are saying when we see the words, when we hear the words of a particular language, they represent, they symbolize something to its users. The third one is that language is arbitrary. And arbitrary means random. So, have you ever thought to yourselves, why is it that this is called a pen and not a pencil? Or why is a pencil not called a pen? Think about it. Who or what gave these things their names? So, this is what makes language arbitrary. School's Not Out. We'll be right back.
The Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, along with TVJ, present Schools Not Out. CSEC and CAPE lessons live Mondays to Fridays from 9 a.m. to 12 noon, with weekly Schools Not Out tutorial sessions on Saturdays from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Schools Not Out, live CSEC and CAPE lessons here on TVJ.
COVID-19 tip. Protect yourself and others from getting sick by washing your hands after coughing or sneezing, when caring for the sick, before, during, and after you prepare food, before eating, after toilet use, when hands are visibly dirty, and after handling animals or animal waste.
Reduce your risk of viral illnesses like the flu and coronavirus. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water. Cover your nose and mouth when coughing with a tissue and dispose of it. Avoid close contact with anyone with a cold or flu-like symptoms. If you become ill, please visit your doctor or the nearest health center and share your travel history. The flu and coronavirus can kill. Let's protect each other. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Get moving! Home workout series with Jamaica Moves.
Jamaica move, mobilize, flexercise. Jamaica move, Jamaica move, Jamaica move, mobilize, flexercise. Come on, take a selfie. Breathe.
Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8:35 a.m. on TVJ.
Hi! We haven't left you out. It's Get Moving Kids. Home workout series with Jamaica Moves. Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays at 2 p.m. on TVJ.
Get moving! Home workout series with Jamaica Moves.
Jamaica move, mobilize, flexercise. Jamaica move, Jamaica move, Jamaica move, mobilize, flexercise. Come on, take a selfie. Breathe.
Mondays, the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, along with TVJ, present Schools Not Out. CSEC and CAPE lessons live Mondays to Fridays from 9 a.m. to 12 noon, with weekly Schools Not Out tutorial sessions on Saturdays from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Schools Not Out, live CSEC and CAPE lessons here on TVJ.
COVID-19 tip. Protect yourself and others from getting sick by washing your hands after coughing or sneezing, when caring for the sick, before, during, and after you prepare food, before eating, after toilet use, when hands are visibly dirty, and after handling animals or animal waste.
Reduce your risk of viral illnesses like the flu and coronavirus. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water. Cover your nose and mouth when coughing with a tissue and dispose of it. Avoid close contact with anyone with a cold or flu-like symptoms. If you become ill, please visit your doctor or the nearest health center and share your travel history. The flu and coronavirus can kill. Let's protect each other. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
The Ministry of Education, Youth and Information.
Get moving! Home workout series with Jamaica Moves.
Jamaica move, mobilize, exercise. Jamaica move, Jamaica move, Jamaica move, mobilize, exercise. Come on, take a selfie, breathe.
Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8:35 a.m. on TVJ.
Mobilize.
Hi! We haven't left you out. It's Get Moving Kids.
Wall Street above. We're moving.
Home workout series with Jamaica Moves. Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays at 2 p.m. on TVJ.
Get moving! Home workout series with Jamaica Moves.
Jamaica move, mobilize, exercise. Jamaica move, Jamaica move, Jamaica move, mobilize, exercise. Come on, take a selfie, breathe.
Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8:35 a.m. on TVJ.
Mobilize.
Hi! We haven't left you out. It's Get Moving Kids.
Wall Street above. We're moving.
Home workout series with Jamaica Moves. Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays at 2 p.m. on TVJ.
Get moving! Home workout series with Jamaica Moves.
Jamaica move, mobilize, exercise. Jamaica move, Jamaica move, Jamaica move, mobilize, exercise. Come on, take a selfie, breathe.
Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8:35 a.m. on TVJ.
Mobilize.
Hi! We haven't left you out. It's Get Moving Kids.
Wall Street above. We're moving.
Home workout series with Jamaica Moves. Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays at 2 p.m. on TVJ.
Get moving! Home.
The Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, along with TVJ, present.
Back to Schools Not Out, your daily classroom for CSEC and CAPE students. So just before the break, we started looking at features of language. We looked at the fact that it is human verbal activity. We looked at it being symbolic, and we stopped at it being arbitrary, saying that language is random. And so students, why we say it is random is that in different languages, words may have different meaning. So on the screen, for instance, you will see guinep. When we ask for guinep in Jamaica, you are going to get that fruit, that bunch of guineps. But if we go to Barbados, for instance, and we ask for ackee, they call their ackee guinep. So this reminds us that it is just the fact that different is it's shared meaning. Okay, so language is shared meaning. So non-instinctive. We say language is non-instinctive. Why? We are born not with a language, but the ability to learn whatever language is in our environment. And let us stop and think about it. if we were born with a language, then the different variety of languages that exist in the world today would not be so. So we are not born with speaking or a language, a specific language. What we are born with is to learn whatever language is in our environment. The other feature of language is that it is dynamic. Dynamic. So we know that language is not static. It is living. And we can compare this to humans. So every day, every second, babies are born, and every second, persons die. And as we grow, there are different changes within us as individuals. It is the same thing with languages. So we have new words entering different languages, and that's how we say the birth of a language. All right, so we have words having new meaning. We have the death of some languages, or they change meaning, or they simply are no longer used. They become archaic. So using the visual on the screen, the word mouse, for argument's sake, we would readily think of the rodent, something we don't want in our homes. But thanks to the advent of technology, when we use the word mouse, we are talking about that part of the computer, that device. So we are seeing that the dynamic nature of language is that we are adding new words to our vocabulary, and they take on different meanings depending on the context. So another feature of language is that it is systematic. What do I mean by language is systematic? It means that language is rule-governed. And in order for anybody to be fluent in a particular language, you must first learn the rules. And that is why when you go to Spanish or French class, for argument's sake, the first things that you learn are the vocabulary and followed by the rules in order for you to be competent in the language. So the example I have here is for English. We should know that English is what we call the SVO language. We have the subject followed by the verb followed by the object. So Mel is the subject. The verb is kicked. We have the noun ball, the object, the window. So it is rule governed. It's a SVO language. Another feature of language is that it is maturational. And what does this suggest? Language being maturational means that we can always add to an utterance. So I started off with 3 words. I slept well. I can add to that sentence. I slept well last night. And I can still add some more to that sentence. I slept well last night despite the noise from my neighbor's dog. So we have language affords us that ability to keep on adding. Now, I raised this question earlier. Do you still believe animals have a language? So you may be quick to tell me, oh yes, the parrot can say Polly wants a cracker. You have mating sounds that the whales may give on, and the list continues. But what we are realizing now, students, is that they have a communication system, but they do not have the complexity that language affords us. Now let us look at this activity here. We're going to read the dialogue and identify which 2 features of language are evident. This is the activity. So Delia says, Damian, did you know that in Spanish the adjective comes after the noun, unlike English where the adjective comes before the noun? And he responds, oh really? I didn't know that. Delia says, yes, I learned that in Spanish class today. Damian responds, interesting. I learned in my Spanish class today that pan means bread in Spanish, the same word in English which means pot. And Delia ends by saying, really? I can see you enjoyed class today and finally learned something. So to remind you of the question, students, what two features of language are evident? Is it that it is maturational and dynamic, systematic and arbitrary, non-instinctive and symbolic, human verbal activity, and dynamic? Which one are we seeing displayed in this activity? Your answer should be systematic and arbitrary. Why? Systematic because they were talking about where the adjective is placed in one language opposed to another. So that means it is rule governed, making it systematic. And it is arbitrary because they were saying that pan means bread in one language as opposed to the other. So we are learning that words are just shared meaning. They are random. All right. We are going to move on to the purposes of language. What do we use language to do? So on your screen, we know that one purpose of language is that it has a reflective function. Then it has a communicative function. It has an expressive function. It has a metalinguistic function, ritualistic function, and fatigue function. What am I talking about? So let us look at each of them. The first one is the reflective function, and you're going to be listening and answering as I go along. And we're going to be using music to identify the feature. So the reflective function, language allows us the opportunity to recall or recapture moments of joy or pain. So when we talk about reflect, think of reminiscing, something in the past. And sometimes these memories are memorable ones, and sometimes they are not so good. So let us listen rather to this song and see the reflective function. Okay, I'm sure you enjoyed that. And so in this song, students, Luther uses music, he uses language, he uses words to express, to reflect on the times he had with his father and really wishes that these times could come back. So we're moving from reflective function and we are going to communicative function. Language allows us to talk about abstract ideas. So the thing doesn't have to be right in front of us for us to be talking about it. We can use it to communicate with others, communicate ideas, and articulate our thoughts. And the communicative function, think of the statements that we make, think about the questions that we ask, think about the commands that we make. All of this comes under communicative function. So again, lend me your ears. Communicative function. Okay, how timely are these words? So these words are communicating ideas and thoughts. After the communicative function, we have the expressive function. Language allows us to express our ideas, our feelings, and our emotions. So we can express our feelings. We're often said, you know what? I'm not one to bottle up my feelings. I'm going to speak my mind. And we see expressive expressive functions also telling us it doesn't have to be negative, how we feel about each, expressing our emotions and our feelings towards a particular person, towards a particular situation. So let's listen.
I spent 10,000 hours.
Oh yes, Justin decides that he's very determined. However long it takes, he's willing to go the extra. So this is expressing his love. After the expressive function, we have the metalinguistic function. Now here, language is used to comment on, refer to, or discuss language itself. So students, you have done your Com Studies essay, and you get back your paper. And sadly, it is filled with some red ink marks. And you are one of them who will not just crumble the paper and toss it. You read through the comments. Now, the comments made on the paper by your teacher is the metalinguistic function. So here, your teacher is using language to comment on the language you have in there so that you can improve on your writing. So let us look at the screen at the metalinguistic function. These are 4 sentences you have in your work. There are too many persons in the room, and you wrote THEIR. And the teacher writes WW, meaning wrong word. Or you have another sentence, so they left. And the teacher writes SF, meaning sentence fragment. You have a third sentence. The room is very, and I'm thinking they should be quiet, but you end up writing quite. And the teacher writes SP, spelling. And the fourth one, I am not feeling well, please turn off the light. And the teacher writes RO, meaning run-on sentence. All these comments that were made in the margin or wherever on the paper the teacher made that comment, what he or she has written is used as a guide to help you to improve on your writing. That's the metalinguistic function. Another function is the ritualistic function. Language here is used to repeat formulaic expressions, statements, questions, and corresponding responses. So we are thinking about a function here where it tends to be ceremonies. So what is said here is it doesn't change, and there are particular situations or circumstances where you will hear this type of language used in a ritualistic way. So, for instance, you go to a national function, or we go to the movies. I know it has been a while since we have been out, but you go to the movies. What is the first thing that we must do before we start watching? We must stand for the national anthem. So this is a part of it. Your prayers that you say in devotion, that is how language is being used, ritualistic. So let us listen to this one we are all familiar with.
Eternal Father, bless our land. Guide us with thy mighty hand. Keep us free from evil powers. Be our life through countless hours.
All right, and so we have the last one here, fatigue function. Language can be used to establish and maintain relationship, solidarity, or create distance. So students, when you meet your friends, so it's a weekend and you go back to school, mind you, it has been a while, and it is Monday, for instance, and you meet your friends in your circle, there's a particular way that we tend to address each other. So the males may say yo. We can say so many different ways. You know how you express it. So I'm going to play these two songs, and I'm sure you are familiar with them, and you will see how the phatic function works. All right, and let's listen to this other one. So, wagwan, bro, you're on the streets, go and do it, bro. So the word Jenna, you will refer to the person as Miji, or you will say wagwan, bro. These terms establish solidarity with persons in your peers. I am sure of all the functions you will remember. I think phatic may stick with you. So all of those students are the different functions of language. So let us put this into studies. Which of the following is the main purpose of the advertisement? Is it a communicative function, reflective, phatic, or ritualistic? And this is our advertisement. And I'll just read two lines. Is your precious a star? Win up to 200 in vet grooming and carpet cleaning gift certificates. And just to remind you what the options are, is it communicative, reflective, phatic, or ritualistic? Your answer should be communicative function. So we are going to our third area, and that is registers. And we are speaking specifically about language registers. So what do we mean by language registers? It refers to the level of formality and informality available to a speaker or writer, and the appropriateness of the choices that are made in relation to purpose and audience. What am I saying? Simply put, when we talk about registers, it's the way we speak, depending on who we are talking to and where we are. So in other words, we are talking about the context. So the context dictates how we speak, and also the person we are speaking to dictates the register that we use. So what are the registers? You should be reminding yourself of them. You should be saying them. So we have frozen register, formal register, consultative register, the casual or informal, and the intimate register. Let us look at each of them. So frozen, think of ice. Once it's not melted, it will stay in place. It's the same thing with the frozen language. It does not change. All right, it is static. So language is not subject to change in this register. So when we go to a funeral, think about it. Your great-great-grandmother who attended a funeral when she was alive, your grandmother, your mother, you, and those to come. Once the body is lowered, what do we tend to hear? Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. So it doesn't change as the years go by, and sometimes even in the same place, or in different places rather. You go to a wedding, in the exchange of vows, the response is, I do. And that is what we mean by language is frozen. Another register, or the one below, is formal register. And this is where language is used in formal settings. And sometimes your audience is made up of strangers, but we know when we talk about formality, we are talking about persons addressing tend to be a group. So the Prime Minister, for instance, addressing the nation, your graduation hopefully is coming up. And so the speech, the speaker, the main speaker, or the valedictorian, the speech that will be presented will take a formal nature. So on behalf of the graduating class of 2020, that's an example from the formal register. We have the consultative register. And this tends to happen when there's an exchange or a conversation. And one of the speakers tend to be more knowledgeable than the other. You're soliciting some information. So think about this register being used, for instance, at the doctor's office. You go to the bank to open an account, lawyer and his or her client. So you're soliciting some amount of information. So you go to the doctor and the doctor says, so, Mr. Sewell, how long now have you been feeling this pain? And a number of questions and answers until they can come to some agreement as to what is exactly wrong. After that, we have the casual or the informal register. And you know, this is used with persons who you're acquainted with, they are friends. There's a level of familiarity among or between these persons. So you will say, hi Sage, what's up? Instead of how are you? So you see that informality in the language. You're familiar, there's ease. And the last one, intimate. This is communication with people who are very close. So we are thinking here of like family members. All right, you're familiar with them. They have specific names that are unique to you. So my example says, hey Salsal, how is mommy's Boogaloo? So Salsal is the short for the person's name, and Boogaloo is unique. Once you hear the word Boogaloo, you know that's you. So that's what we call the intimate register. Vocab is particularly unique to certain persons. Let us look at our activity for registers. Dion is a student who is being trained as a minister of religion to serve congregations in the English-speaking Caribbean. He likes to use English Creole in his sermons. His supervising minister tells him to refrain from doing this because it is not appropriate. Name one register that may be used by Dion while he delivers his sermon. Is it consultative? Is it frozen? Is it formal? Is it intimate? And so, I'm sure you have chosen your answer. Your answer should be formal. Our last topic for today is attitudes to language. And I briefly touched on this in last week's communication studies class. When we talk about attitudes to language, what is it that we are talking about? When we speak about attitudes to language, we are speaking about how a person feels about the particular use of a language. And their attitude may be as a result of any of these factors. It could be because of their level of education, their history and culture of their country or the language, economic factors, social mobility, personality, emotional state, geographic location, and sometimes even their age that affects how they view a particular language. And so, certain words that are used to speak about the positive attitude that a person has is pride or confidence. But if it's a negative attitude, we tend to use words like contempt or shame or ridicule. So our activity here, we are going to be looking at this poem and we are going to be talking about the attitude towards Creole in this poem. Noliko Twang by Louise Bennett Coverley. Me glad to see you come back, boy. But Lord, you let me down. Me shame I used to tell all of me proud this drop a ground. You mean you got America and spend 6 whole months there and come back back not a piece better than you did go away. Boy, you no shame. It's so you come after you turn so long. Not even little language, boy. Not even little twang. I'm sure you get the gist of the poem. So this young man has traveled not 6 weeks, not 6 days, 6 long months. And guess what? He has come back the same way, particularly where his speech is concerned. And so the persona is quite disappointed that maybe she has heard persons travel for a couple days or weeks and they come back with twang. And this man has left for 6 long months and he has come back the same way. So what is the attitudes toward this language that he has maintained since he has come back? What is his attitude towards and this language? What is this language that he has maintained? Obviously, the Creole. All right? So what is the attitude displayed here? Your answer should be shame, disappointment, shame and disappointment. Our other poem is Dry Foot Boy, again by Louise Bennett. What wrong with Mary Dryfoot Boy? Them girl got him for mock. And when me meet him Tara night, the boy give me a shock. Me tell him say him auntie and him cousin them saying howdy. And ask him how him getting on. Him say, oh jolly, jolly. Me start to feel so sorry for the poor bad lucky soul. Me thinking come a foreign land come catch bad foreign coal. Me thinking got a bad sore throat. But as in chat go on, me find out say it's foreign twang the boy was a put on. For me notice that he answer to nearly all me say was, actually, what? Oh dear. And all them sitting there. Again, the question is, what is the attitude towards the language? So what is happening in the poem really? We're realizing, like the first poem, that somebody has traveled overseas, okay? They have traveled. In this one, however, the traveler, so to speak, comes back and he has forgotten his mother tongue. He's not speaking the way he left. And so, as they use the word here, mock, them start to mock. Now, the persona realizes that it's not cool him have. It's actually the accent that he has taken up. And my question to you now, students, is what is the attitude towards this foreign language in this poem? What is the attitude? Is it one of shame or is it one of pride? Your answer to this should be shame. All right. So we have done a lot. We have really covered a lot thus far. And there is a culminating activity that I want to quickly go through. We have looked at attitudes to language. We have looked at features of language. We have looked at the characteristics of language. And we have looked at language registers. Our culminating activity. Andy, I believe the greatest gift we got from slavery experience is the English language. And Blair responds, huh? You think so? I think it's Creole. Andy says, what? Creole? What can you really do with Creole? You can't write laws or exams or anything like that. And Blair responds, but certainly you can. You can produce formal writing in Creole. After all, Creole is symbolic as English. Let us look at our questions. Number 1 requires us to identify 2 different attitudes to Creole expressed in the dialogue above. Number 2, state 2 characteristics of language other than its symbolism that is evident in Creole and English. And 3, name the register that is used in the conversation. So what are the different attitudes to Creole expressed? Andy and Blair just had a dialogue. What is the varying attitudes to language? Are you thinking? So, there is definitely respect and appreciation for Creole by Blair. And there is Andy thinks that it's degrading. It is something that is uncivilized. Let us go back to question 2. What are the 2 characteristics of language other than its symbolism that is evident? Is it casual and frozen? Is it maturational and consultative? Is it non-instinctive and systematic? Is it dynamic and intimate? And remember, students, start to do elimination when you are doing your multiple choice. So you should readily realize that some characteristics are actually mixed with registers. So you should quickly eliminate those from your answer, right? So A should definitely not be there for argument's sake. And the features are in there, so C should not be there either. So we are left with B and D. So what are the 2 characteristics of language that we are seeing there? It is non-instinctive and that it is systematic. Because this one, intimate, consultative, and frozen, these are registers. So you should have eliminated those. And the last question, what register is used in the conversation above? It is definitely casual. All right, so we looked today at the features of language, and I'm sure you can give me 2. The purposes of language, can you recall them? Language registers and attitudes to language. Please remember, read over your notes, practice, and remember, students, that when you're doing your multiple choice questions, don't just think before you actually make your choice. Think about what the answer should be. That when you actually look on the paper, you are looking out specifically for certain things. That's all for today. Caribbean Studies is up. We hope you grasped some of the points we discussed. You can catch a repeat of today's lesson on JNN Today at 4 p.m. and in the Schools Not Out highlights on Saturday between 1 and 4 p.m. right here on TVJ. It will also be on video on demand on One Spot Media. Until next time, I'm Kelleen Ayton. Happy Teachers' Day to all my fellow colleagues. God bless you.